This is tyranny. This is dictatorial. This is an oligarch in charge of the government, and there is not a single Republican who's going to say anything. I am back, not in the United States. I am in a hotel room in Osaka, Japan, but I'm going to be doing this weird job that I do from Japan. The first thing I want to talk about is I want to thank Garrison Hayes for being willing to and doing an exemplary job of guest hosting for me for the last 5 days. I really appreciate it a lot. This is a very goofy job. It is not normal. And to ask somebody who doesn't do this type of content and with the intensity of the schedule, it was a heavy lift for anybody to get used to. So thank you very much, Garrison. I love and appreciate you very much. And I think by the virtue of all of the comments that I read, the audience does too. If you're not already, go subscribe to Garrison Hayes' channel. There will be a link below. He does an amazing job at what he does, and he should be compensated with your appreciation. Anyway, let's start today talking about Donald Trump, the President of the United States, the grifter in chief, who is attempting to loot the Treasury. Donald Trump is a megalomaniacal tyrant who is using violent, masked, secret police to kidnap migrants off of our streets, to hold hostage, take hostages of American citizens, detaining them because they didn't look American. He's invading and occupying our cities using the United States military. He's literally demolishing the White House to construct a grand palace, a ballroom for himself, using $250 million to do so. And now, this same tyrant is going to loot the Treasury to pay himself, to punish the American taxpayer and our justice system for investigating his many crimes. And that looting is also to the tune of $250 million. And largely, the media is asleep at the wheel in this moment. Get a load of this headline from the New York Times. Trump said to demand the Justice Department pay him $230 million for past cases. Senior department officials who were defense lawyers for the president and those in his orbit are now in jobs that typically must approve any such payout, underscoring potential ethical conflicts. Potential ethical conflicts, says the gray lady, says the paper of record, the New York Times. Potential ethical conflicts. Donald Trump committed crimes. He was convicted of nearly 36 felonies. He would have been convicted of more. He acts as though the lawful search warrants that were issued by a judge, that was lawfare against him, that any consequence that comes his way is unfair, our toddler-in-chief says. And now he wants to be paid. He wants to loot the Treasury of $250 million to enrich himself even more. The oligarch that we have as President of the United States. This should be a wake-up call for corporate Democrats, for mainstream Democrats, for Republicans who claim to be patriots, and for the mainstream media. Get a load of this article. President Trump is demanding that the Justice Department pay him about $230 million in compensation for the federal investigations into him, according to people familiar with the matter, who added that any settlement might ultimately be approved by senior department officials who defended him or those in his orbit. He's going to utilize his personal attorneys, guys like Todd Blanche, who defended him in court as a private litigant, as a private attorney, to pay him. He's put them in positions of great power in the Department of Justice. For what? Donald Trump committed crimes, allegedly. There was a natural, normal, legal process to investigate those crimes. Remember, he absconded with such secret documents, such highly sensitive national security secrets, that they couldn't be generally described in public in the media. That's how top secret they were. And he had them in a bathroom in Mar-a-Lago, on a stage in Mar-a-Lago, in just document boxes for any asshole to go and look through, to peruse. And now, because of his crime, because of the investigation into his crime, he's going to enrich himself with our tax dollars to the tune of $250 million. The same amount as his palatial ballroom that he's constructing. The situation has no parallel in American history, as Mr. Trump, a presidential candidate, was pursued by federal law enforcement and eventually won the election, taking over the very government that must now review his claims. It is also the starkest example yet of potential ethical conflicts. Potential ethical conflicts. Potential. It's potential. It's not an ethical conflict, but it's a potential ethical conflict, says the New York Times, created by installing the president's former lawyers atop the Justice Department. Mr. Trump submitted complaints through an administrative claims process that often is the precursor to lawsuits. The first claim, lodged in late 2023, seeks damages for a number of purported violations to his rights, including the FBI and special counsel investigation into Russian election tampering and possible connections to the 2016 Trump campaign. You'll remember, by the way, I'll cut this off mid-sentence, you'll remember that Donald Trump's son, Don Jr., the smarter of the two dopey older sons, he met with a Russian national named Natalia Veselnitskaya. You'll remember this. He admitted, and the purpose of the meeting was to try to obtain dirt on Hillary Clinton. There was a Russian connection between the campaign and Russian nationals. To act like there wasn't is just a fool's errand. It is folly. It is conspiracy theory. It is the construction of an alternate reality. We'll finish this sentence here. According to people familiar with the matter, they spoke on the condition of anonymity because the claim has not been made public. The second complaint, filed in the summer of 2024, accuses the FBI of violating Mr. Trump's privacy by searching Mar-a-Lago, his club, and residence in Florida in 2022 for classified documents. It also accuses the Justice Department of malicious prosecution in charging him with mishandling sensitive records as he left office. The things I've just explained. Now, yesterday in the Oval Office, there was a celebration of Diwali, and he was asked questions about this. And being that he is addled, being that he is in cognitive decline, he is slowly slipping away before our eyes. No one in the mainstream media seems to be saying anything about it, reporting anything about it, calling it what it is. Where's Jake Tapper when you need him? Paging Jake Tapper. He was asked about it. And in the most confused fashion, one, he can't hear, which is also a precursor to dementia. He can't hear what? What's this? What are you saying? I'm being compensated. I don't know what you're talking about. Then they get to the question, and he finally figures it out and answers.
Are you asking the Justice Department to look into the federal investigations into you and look for compensation, and how much are you asking for?
Who's asking for what?
Are you asking the Justice Department to pay you compensation for your federal investigations into you? Are you asking them to pay compensation, and how much?
Into me? I don't get any compensation. I do it for nothing. I gave up my salary. Into me?
No, it's going to be the Justice Department. Are you asking them to pay you compensation for the federal investigations that happened to you? And how much are you asking for?
Well, I guess they probably owe me a lot of money for that. Yeah, that's true. That's very interesting. No, I get no salary. I gave up my salary. It's a good salary. Not as much as these guys make, but that's okay. It's a lot of money. And I don't, as you know, I didn't take it in the first 4 years. I'm not taking it in these 4 years either. But as far as all of the litigation and everything that's been involved, yeah, they probably owe me a lot of money. But if I get money from our country, I'll do something nice with it, like give it to charity or give it to the White House while we restore the White House. And we're doing a great job in the White House. As you know, the ballroom is under construction. It's going to be, they've been trying to get it for 150 years. And it's really, I think it's going to be fantastic. But
that's just a confused old man. Grandpa not getting his shit together, figuring out the question in the Oval Office. Caitlin Collins had to bear down, get a little clarification, and his answer was troubling, to say the least.
You're just very good.
Just follow up on her question to you, because the New York Times is reporting that your legal team is seeking $230 million from your own Justice Department now in response to the investigations into you. Is that something you want your legal team to do?
I don't know what the numbers are. I don't even talk to them about it. All I know is that they would owe me a lot of money, but I'm not looking for money. I'd give it to charity or something. I would give it to charity, any money. But look, what they did, they rigged the election. And as you know, we had, in one case, 60 Minutes had to pay us a lot of money. George Slobodanopoulos had to pay us a lot of money, and they already paid. You know, they paid me a lot of money because what they did was wrong. And you know, when somebody does what's wrong, now with the country, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes the decision, right? And you know, that decision would have to go across my desk, and it's awfully strange to make a decision where I'm paying myself. In other words, did you ever have one of those cases where you have to decide how much you're paying yourself in damages? But I was damaged very greatly, and any money that I would get, I would give to charity.
He's just saying it. He's just admitting openly, I run the government. I can do what I want. I can pay myself what I want. I can have a grievance against the government as President of the United States and use the Treasury, which is under my control, to pay myself $250 million. People are abused by police departments all over this country and have to fight and scrape to get recompense, to get payment for their aggrievement, for their abuse, for their violations of their civil rights. Yet Donald Trump, because he controls the Treasury, he can do what he wants. This is tyranny. This is dictatorial. This is an oligarch in charge of the government, and there is not a single Republican who's going to say anything. They whine and complain about fraud, waste, and abuse. Is this not the most wild case of fraud, waste, and abuse that you can think of? That's where I'll leave you. I'd love to hear from you. You can comment below this video wherever you're watching it, whether that be Facebook or YouTube. If you're on Facebook, like and follow the Dollemore Daily over there. If you're on YouTube and you have not subscribed to this channel, please do. We are trying furiously to get to 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube, and with your help, I can do that. If you want to sound off, do it in the comments, or you can call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I am so glad to be back. Look, there's no good time to take a work/vacation trip. That's what this is. There's no good time during a Trump administration. There's always a breakneck pace of the news. They talk about the fact that they have evidence. They don't have evidence. They're not seeking evidence. They're not looking for an actual realistic picture, a reality-based picture. All they're doing is trying to cover for Donald Trump and going as far as to not swear in a newly elected representative of a district in Arizona. The Republican Party is officially a party of pedophile protectors. They don't want information about Donald Trump's sordid relationship with his best friend, self-described best friend of nearly 15 years, Jeffrey Epstein, a man who was a convicted abuser of women, young girls. Donald Trump seeking to pardon the associate, the co-conspirator of that child rapist, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. And the Republican Party sees fit to run interference for this credibly accused abuser of the most innocent among us. The Family Values Party, the Christian Party, the lovers of Jesus. They want to protect Donald Trump at all cost, at any cost. James Comer yesterday gave a statement without having possession of the Epstein files, because remember, the newly elected representative Grijalva, who has not been sworn in to office because they're afraid that she is going to, and she is going to vote to release the Epstein files. She's the final vote. And they're not going to allow her until they're forced to do so. They're scrambling, trying to come up with some kind of interference to run for Donald Trump. And James Comer does not have possession of the DOJ's Epstein files. Yet, he says in the statement I'm getting ready to play for you that the evidence we've gathered does not implicate Donald Trump in any way. Even though we've seen the letter, the little drawing, that here's to another year of wonderful secrets. Enigmas are ageless, Jeffrey. We're all of the gross, disgusting behavior that we've witnessed from Donald Trump, him being asked by Howard Stern what's too young for him, him telling tales about watching a 12-year-old Paris Hilton and describing her as hot. We've witnessed him talk about what it would be like to have sex with his own daughter. That's what he and Ivanka have in common is sex. This is the president of the Family Values Party. He's all but admitted that he has a predilection for young girls. I don't even know that all but admitted. He has admitted it. Yet we have to dance around, play around with this. Watch James Comer say there's no evidence, yet Bill Clinton might be guilty. And as I've said before, if Bill Clinton is guilty, burn him to the ground. We should have no tolerance for the abuse of children, none. No matter how powerful, no matter how rich, no matter how Democrat, no matter how Republican, burn him to the ground. Watch this.
Let's be clear. Democrats don't care about transparency or accountability in this matter. The evidence we've gathered does not implicate President Trump in any way. Public reporting, survivor testimony, and official documents show that Bill Clinton had far closer ties to Epstein. We're working to bring former President Clinton in for a deposition, but the Democrats aren't helping one bit. You would think, since we've already brought two former Trump cabinet secretaries in, they would be willing to bring in a Democrat who's had publicly a far closer relationship with especially Maxwell and Epstein. So why is that? That's a question every reporter should be asking Ranking Member Garcia and every Democrat on the committee. Why aren't you helping to bring Bill Clinton in for an interview and deposition just like we brought in Barr and Acosta?
So he's so innocent. If he is so innocent, James Comer, release the files. Why are you so afraid? Why are James Comer in the House of Representatives? Why is he so afraid? They're fighting tooth and nail to try to clear Trump rhetorically, yet all they have to do to convince us, to convince pundits like me, is release the files. Let us see what's in there. Let us make up our own mind about the evidence. Mike Johnson, he's in the same boat. Moses Mike, the self-described mighty, righteous man of God, this God-fearing individual who follows the philosophies and the teachings of Jesus the Christ, who said that it's better to have a millstone tied around your neck and have you tossed to the bottom of the sea. It's better to have that done to you than for you to harm a child. Yet, we have this for Mike Johnson.
A leader, they don't have any identifiable set of policy solutions for the problems facing the American people. Their party continues to hit all-time historic lows in poll after poll after poll, and many of you have reported on that. These are objective facts. They're utterly lost as a party, and everybody can see it. So what are they doing? They see a shiny object, and they latch onto it. Democrats did not say one word about the Epstein files for the entire Biden presidency. They had all the files in the Biden DOJ. They didn't say a word about it. 4 years, not a word. And suddenly now they somehow convince themselves that the Epstein files will be damaging to President Trump and Republicans in some way that they've imagined. And so they feign outrage.
Nobody's feigning outrage. Child rape is outrageous. Having a credibly accused child rapist as a president is outrageous. Do you think we're feigning outrage? All of this strains credulity. It strains reason and rationality. It is a departure from norms. It's a departure from decency. Dan Goldman, the congressman from California, he spoke to both of these types of arguments being made by James Comer and Mike Johnson. And I think it's worth revisiting.
I don't even know where to begin. It is a clown show over in the Oversight Committee. But obviously, there's plenty of evidence already, including a letter to Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday book, that Donald Trump had some indication of what's going on. We know about the many, many times Trump traveled on his plane. We know about Trump saying he knows about Epstein's penchant for younger girls. And more importantly, they are covering up disclosure of the Epstein files. The Republicans who literally made this a top campaign issue are now going through a very, very complex cover-up. And part of that cover-up is James Comer, because that oversight investigation very specifically does not ask for the types of evidence where Donald Trump's name, likeness would be. Photographs, video recordings, audio recordings, witness statements, the investigation origination documents. The Oversight Committee has not asked for those. The discharge petition that Mike Johnson is preventing Adelita Grijalva from signing by not allowing her to be sworn in, that would require those documents to be turned over. And as a former prosecutor, I believe that is where you would see Donald Trump. So this notion that Bill Clinton should come in for a deposition and Donald Trump shouldn't is preposterous. And the idea that there's no evidence about Donald Trump when this massive cover-up is going to such great lengths as to have this ruse oversight investigation that is intentionally avoiding the most damning evidence should not be lost on anyone, and no one should be fooled.
They talk about the fact that they have evidence. They don't have evidence. They're not seeking evidence. They're not looking for an actual realistic picture, a reality-based picture. All they're doing is trying to cover for Donald Trump. And going as far as to not swear in a newly elected representative of a district in Arizona because they know she's going to vote to release those Epstein files, to force the DOJ to release those files. Jamie Raskin just yesterday tried to get her sworn in, tried to pressure the House of Representatives. And because of Mike Johnson's recalcitrance, they're refusing. Watch Jamie Raskin explain what took place.
And it was my pleasure to be accompanied today by our new colleague, Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva from the great state of Arizona. She accompanied me to the floor. I tried to get recognition. There was no other business today. I was standing directly opposite the acting speaker for the day, Mr. Herodopoulos. The moment the Pledge of Allegiance was over, I asked for recognition because I wanted to move a unanimous consent motion that the Speaker of the House be directed to move on the next legislative day, tomorrow, to swear in Ms. Grijalva, and yet he turned away, he pretended he didn't notice me, and he scurried out of the room, which to me is disgraceful.
Fitting, absolutely apt, absolutely accurate. Scurried, they are running, they are afraid, they are retreating, all to protect Donald Trump, who's literally demolishing the White House right now, who's looting the Treasury, who is running roughshod over just not only the norms of our constitutional republic, but over what should be just standards of behavior for good and decent people. These are criminals. And what is it called when you protect criminals? Accessory after the fact? I don't know. But it seems troubling that the law and order party has brought us here. I will leave you there. I would love your opinion on this. You can comment below the video wherever you're watching that, whether that be Facebook or YouTube. I'd love to have you subscribe to this channel. It is free to do so. We're trying to get to 1.5 million subscribers by the end of the year. I think we can do it. Certainly with your help, I can do it. You can also like and follow the Facebook page, Dollemore Daily. That would be fantastic. And you can call and leave me a voicemail if you're not into the commenting below the video. 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate it very much. I do want to hear from you. I will see you next time.
The reckless and irresponsible pardons of hundreds of violent felons on January 6th has consequences. There are consequences to that beyond me.
As someone who has been threatened with death, with murder from a Trump supporter, as someone whose wife has been threatened with death and rape from a Trump supporter for just sharing our opinions, this particular topic is sensitive and it's near to me. We did see a conviction in the case. It was mild. It didn't go as far as it should have gone. But Donald Trump has absolutely normalized political violence in our country, and then whines when it comes his way. He incites and encourages and promotes political violence, and then when someone takes a shot at him, it made the campaign for him. Fight, fight, fight. All the Republicans act like they are the victims, even though all of the stats bear out the fact that right-wing extremism is the chief source of political violence and domestic terrorism in our country. And it's continuing. Donald Trump pardoned nearly 1,600 people for their participation in the January 6th insurrection, the attempt to overthrow the United States government by an effort to overturn a free and fair, settled American election. An election that Donald Trump still maintains was rigged, that he actually won, even though Joe Biden won by 7 million plus votes. And a lot of the people he pardoned were violent. They went there with intent to harm. They chanted, "Hang Mike Pence." They constructed, and not a hastily erected hangman's gallows on the lawn of the United States Capitol. They erected it with a plan to use it. Why chant "Hang Mike Pence" over and over and over with hundreds of people saying it, if not to do it, when there was the implement to do so, to murder the seated Vice President of the United States, Donald Trump's Vice President of the United States. And now we're seeing violence from the very people Donald Trump let off the hook for their crimes. Calls them political prisoners, the people who attempted to overthrow the United States government. And now one has been arrested by a state official, not a federal official, for threatening to kill HAKEEM Jeffries. This is from the New York Times. Pardoned January 6 rioter charged with threatening HAKEEM Jeffries. That would be a beautiful and perfect headline if they were to stop there. If there wasn't this sub-headline, "Get a load of this," from the New York Times, who has absolutely lost the plot. Why do they need to add this to that headline? Again, pardoned January 6 rioter charged with threatening HAKEEM Jeffries. The New York man, Christopher Moynihan, appears to be the only rioter so far who has been charged again with committing an offense against an elected official. What? Why do they need that clarification? This is an attempt to ingratiate themselves to Donald Trump, to not draw the ire of Donald Trump. But let me give you a message, New York Times. This ain't gonna save you. CBS bending the knee, ABC bending the knee. It didn't save them. He still whines and complains and initiates venom and vitriol from his base against them. Kissing Trump's ass isn't going to get you anywhere. An upstate New York man pardoned by President Trump after taking part in the attack on the Capitol on January 6, 2021, was charged last week with a new crime, threatening to assassinate Representative HAKEEM Jeffries, the House Democratic leader, at an event in New York City. The man, Christopher P. Moynihan, 34, sent text messages to an unknown associate on Friday threatening Mr. Jeffries' life, according to a criminal complaint issued by local prosecutors in Dutchess County, New York. Again, Donald Trump's DOJ, they're not going to look into this. They're not going to prosecute this. They're not going to investigate this. It takes a local official at the state level to get it done. Quote, HAKEEM Jeffries makes a speech in a few days in New York City. I cannot allow this terrorist to live, the complaint quoted Mr. Moynihan as saying, quote, even if I am hated, he must be eliminated. I will kill him for the future. Now, where have we heard that language before? 7 million plus people just marched in the No Kings protest last weekend. And Donald Trump labeled them terrorists, terrorist sympathizers. Mike Johnson labeled all of us. I wasn't there because I am still in Japan, in Osaka, in a hotel room right now. But Stephen Miller has also been calling the Democratic Party a domestic extremist organization, aka terrorists. They whine and say you can't call somebody a fascist, even though Donald Trump has called everybody fascists for years. You can't do it, otherwise violence will come from that. Yet, this is what we get. When you use words like terrorist, under Republicans' own logic, that's what you get, right? Yeah. Well, here's Mike Johnson dialing it back, saying this shouldn't be political, this shouldn't be political, and then in the very next breath makes it political while explaining away this threat against his colleague, HAKEEM Jeffries.
I don't know any of the details of this at all. I don't know who's been alleged to have been involved in this. I will say that anybody who threatens political violence against elected officials or anyone else should be have the full weight and measure of the Department of Justice on their head. I trust that that'll happen. I hope it will. We are intellectually consistent about that, obviously. I will tell you this. The violence on the left is far more prevalent than the violence on the right. Don't make me go through the list. You all know it. All of these the assassination culture that's been advanced now, this is the left in almost every case that is advancing this and not the right. So let's not make it a partisan issue. You don't want me to go there. We're just going to say anybody, any deranged individual, this has to stop. And the rhetoric that you saw on display on Saturday, we highlighted yesterday, it plays into this, okay? There are people that get triggered. There are deranged people in society when they hear elected officials participating in a rally that was paid for by Soros and sponsored by communists with signs and placards and mantras that were repeated that we should bring death to, fascist politicians. What they mean is they call every Republican a fascist now. They're calling for the death of elected officials. Please, enough of that. We got to stop it. Stop the rhetoric, stop all the nonsense, and stop the violence.
Thank you.
Look, I'm not going to address it because I'm not sure of the details of this, and I think we've said enough. You know where we stand, and every one of you should stand there the same way. We denounce violence from anybody, anytime. Those people should be arrested and tried. Thanks.
He sure doesn't know any details at all about anything when it's something important. Oh, I haven't seen that. I don't know any of the details. I'm just totally in the dark, says Mike Johnson. What is it like to have a absolutely feckless and opinionless, someone who's so out of tune with the news as Speaker of the House of Representatives, who's the leader of the House of Representatives, the entire body, not knowing about threats to members? It's because they're Democrats. HAKEEM Jeffries was asked about this, and he said He summarized kind of the same thing that I'm talking about, except he is the target of the threat, and I think we should hear from him.
What do you make of it? The person accused of threatening you is the recipient of one of those blanket pardons.
I think the reckless and irresponsible pardons of hundreds of violent felons on January 6th has consequences, as eloquently articulated by Representative Jamie Raskin. There are consequences to that, beyond me. Beyond me. The consequences are, we've seen crimes committed by people who Donald Trump pardoned on the first day he was sworn into office, by folks who have been released back into society all across the country. Some of them violent crimes. And so there are consequences to these irresponsible actions, and not a single House Republican has walked away from them, not a single one. There are consequences when these extremists who are part of the Trump administration label the entirety of the Democratic Party as terrorists or criminals. There are consequences to that beyond us. We all know what we've signed up for, but there's pain being visited upon the American people because of actions taken by Donald Trump, supported by House Republicans and Senate Republicans on day one of his presidency.
He's almost there. He's getting there. Donald Trump, it was by design to pardon these people, these criminals, these terrorists. And that's what they are. When you commit violence with the intent of a political motive, with an outcome that is related to politics, that's terrorism. That's what these people are. And Donald Trump knew what he was doing to pardon en masse 1,600 people who attempted to violently overthrow the United States government. He knew this was the unorganized militia that he's been champing at the bit for. He knew. Donald Trump, this is by design. This is a feature, not a bug. The Republican Party is systematically trying to whip the base into a frenzy, into a fury, to get someone killed, while whining about Donald Trump's assassination attempt. He didn't get shot in the ear, probably got his ear caught on the hammer of somebody's pistol or on their holster, but he wasn't shot in the ear. He wouldn't have an ear left if a round had gotten close enough to do the damage to his ear that wasn't even damaged. There's not a scar on his ear. We are in a very, very tight spot in the United States of America right now. Mainly, it wouldn't be as tight if we had major societal influence waking up, whether that be the mainstream media, whether that be corporate Democrats. Hopefully, this is a moment that's going to animate people like HAKEEM Jeffries and Chuck Schumer to action. It can't be tersely worded emails and demands to negotiate. We're beyond negotiating with the Republican Party. They are trying to get our leaders killed. They are trying to foment violence, to encourage violence, to incite violence, just like they did on January 6th. This is where we are. It is something remarkable when someone who is a general, a high-ranking military official, speaking to a reporter like this, telling their honest, unvarnished truth to a reporter. It's a big deal. Pete Hegseth is in trouble. I mean, our country generally is in trouble. But Pete Hegseth as a leader is having a problem. I'm going to read a headline and a few paragraphs from this Washington Times article. And let me tell you, when the Washington Times has always been conservative, but it really took kind of a radical turn over the course of the last couple decades. And when the Washington Times is saying that Hegseth has lost the generals, the top military officials who are subordinate to him, that's a problem. There is discord in the ranks, not among the enlisted ranks. I was enlisted in the Marine Corps, not among the young, junior members of our military, but from the people who run it. The intellectual element of our military, the commanders, they have no respect for Pete Hegseth. They are embarrassed by Pete Hegseth. Get a load of this headline from the Washington Times. He lost us. Generals, senior officers say trust in Hegseth has evaporated. Secretary's critical worry, Pentagon at risk of enduring damage amid firings, resignations, and early retirements of high-ranking staff. In government and in the military, there is something called institutional knowledge. When you have people who have been in the military for 30, 35, some 40 years, you don't attain those ranks without having deep knowledge of how things work. And people are leaving in droves, they are resigning, they are just retiring because they don't want a part of this. They don't want to be a part of a fascistic administration. They don't want to be subject to the unlawful orders of this despot president of the United States. And they're sounding off and letting reporters know, and it's being reported by conservative outlets, that we got a serious situation in our military. This is from, again, the Washington Times. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has lost the trust and respect of some top military commanders with his public, quote-unquote, grandstanding, widely seen as unprofessional, and the personnel moves made by the former cable TV host leading to an unprecedented and dangerous exodus of talent from the Pentagon, said senior military officers and current former Defense Department officials. Again, I cannot stress this enough. This is from a conservative newspaper. This might as well be Newsmax referring to Pete Hegseth as a former morning show host. This is a big deal. This is a sea change. This is the needle moving in the correct direction relative to maybe seeing Pete Hegseth seeing his way out. Numerous high-ranking officers painted Mr. Hegseth's September 30th speech to hundreds of generals and admirals gathered at Marine Corps Base Quantico in Virginia as a turning point in how his leadership style, attitude, and overall competency are viewed in the upper echelons of the U.S. Armed Forces. Quote, "It was a massive waste of time. If he ever had us, he lost us," one current Army general told the Washington Times. Look, it is something remarkable when someone who is a general, a high-ranking military official, speaking to a reporter like this, telling their honest, unvarnished truth to a reporter. It's a big deal. And this general also knows it's a big deal. This story should be making waves. This story should be reported on more widely by more mainstream and normal, respectable outlets than just the Washington Times. There are a ton of really amazing quotes in here. Get ready for these. The Quantico speech, described by other sources as quote-unquote embarrassing and theatrical to a degree that is, quote, below our institution, seemed to crystallize beliefs about Mr. Hegseth that had taken root among some senior officers, including the view that the secretary operates with a junior officer's mentality that has led him to micromanage policies about issues such as military facial hair standards and press access to the Pentagon, sometimes at the expense of the much broader portfolio of a typical defense secretary. In other words, these general officers, these highly educated, these people of great, usually high moral character, but certainly deep institutional knowledge of the Pentagon, they're saying this dipshit's acting like some kind of a lance corporal, talking like a Marine here, some kind of a junior officer, like a butter bar, a second lieutenant. Yet he's the Secretary of Defense. This is doing great damage, both reputationally, but also operationally, to the Pentagon. Quote, mainly what I see from him are not serious things, a current senior officer said. Quote, it's why did this service member tweet this, or internal politics and drama. That's mostly what I see. Mr. Hegseth clearly does not care about such criticism. At Quantico, he told any officer who disagreed with his priorities and his laser-like focus on a return to what he calls the military's warrior ethos to resign. That's not leadership, by the way. My way or the highway isn't leadership. It's certainly not servant leadership, but it's not leadership just in general. This is not how our military operates. High-level sources said they believe that Mr. Hegseth is simultaneously doing deep damage to the military, both from a public relations standpoint and structurally behind the scenes. That may not be fully apparent until months or even years from now. They say Mr. Hegseth's insistence that the Pentagon will embrace a color and gender-blind meritocracy is at odds with the reality inside the Defense Department, which President Trump has given the secondary title, War Department. They argue that the firings, early retirements, and resignations that have amassed over the past 8 months will fundamentally weaken the military. Across the services, this is a quote, across the services, we are bleeding talented generals and flag officers for what appears to be the opposite of a meritocracy, another current senior officer said. Quote, there are people being held back from promotions or being fired or removed for sometimes unknown reasons, often for favoritism or just simple relationships. Now, I would take that a step further. This isn't about favoritism, unless, of course, you believe holding whites in favoritism is favoritism. I don't call that favoritism. I call that racism. I call that xenophobia. I call that out of step with the proper functioning of the United States military. And I'm saying that as a former United States Marine, someone who served on active duty for years. The Pentagon, under Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, is systematically erasing the contributions of black people, deleting photos from Pentagon websites of women, firing them, moving them from different commands, of the absolute bigotry of forcing out of military service transgender individuals in the military. This is not how it works. This is not how it should work. This is weakening the military. And when you weaken the Defense Department, you weaken our national security posture on a global stage. And it is by design, because Donald Trump doesn't want a strong American military. He wants to cuddle up to people like Vladimir Putin. He wants to give the benefit of the doubt to Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping and Viktor Orban and despots and dictators all over the globe, because that's the club he wants to be in. That's the association he wants to have. He doesn't want to be in good company, of decent company, of respectable company like NATO. He wants to be in the axis of evil. He wants to be the tip of the spear for the axis of evil, to borrow a term from George W. Bush post 9/11. This puts us all at risk. This puts us all in danger. It's not just an institutional issue for the military. It puts your life, your children's lives, your grandchildren's lives at risk. This risks our very democracy, our very way of life. It's not hyperbole to call it what it is. Anyway, I'm going to leave you there. This is it for today. I am very happy to be back. I'll be working from a hotel room for the rest of the week and next week as well. I am in Osaka right now. We're going to be in Hiroshima. We're right around the 80th anniversary of the war crime that we committed against the Japanese people with the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's one of the reasons I'm here in Japan, and I'm going to be talking about that, doing some reporting from there, and I hope you will join me. I'd love your opinion on this. You can sound off in the comments, talk about this amongst yourselves. And you can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. Once again, ending the show today, I want to say thank you to Garrison Hayes. You are a beautiful human being, and I am lucky beyond measure that I have so many good friends and colleagues in this space who are willing to step in and help me out in a time like this. I hope you'll all go and subscribe to his channel. Support independent media. He is doing stellar work in this space, and he needs every bit as much of the support and buoying of the spirit as you give me. Do me a favor and go subscribe to his channel. There will be a link below. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine and take care of one another.